Yesterday, whenever I did the other tape, I was speaking about biblical evidence or biblical support for my theory, right? And I went through it about, I went through the life of Jesus, the sign at the beginning, the sign that shall be contradicted by stated by Simeon, the dove alighting over his head, the contradictory statement that Jesus said regarding the sign, no sign will be given to you, and one sign will be given to you, and how that matched what Saint Simeon said. I also listed other events in the Bible and the Old Testament that could support me. But one thing I didn't do, I forgot to do, I didn't tie them in with Jesus. So I'm going to do that now. I stated about the 3 days in darkness, 3 days of darkness over Egypt. If that was just Egypt, then it wouldn't have affected the whole world. So I'm talking about events that could have had an impact on the earth. The second story I told you was about the long day of Joshua. That took place, and if that did take place, I read you the passage in the Bible, that would have affected the earth. Then I said to you the story about Hezekiah and how the similarities, when you compare it to what the Sign of Jonah business here that I'm saying, it fits, many of it. I explained that in the other segment. No extension will be given to you, then one will be given to you. The word sign, look at the sundial. What do you want? If you want verification, tell me which way do you want the sundial to move, 10 degrees backwards or 10 degrees forward. 3 days, restoration, etc. Now, the way it ties back into Jesus is as follows. You take the Joshua story, right? There might have been an event, whether symbolic or in reality, I don't know how to prove that, but either way, it points to what could be happening in regards to Jesus. So you have the Joshua story. All right, now Jesus wasn't called Jesus when he was on this earth. He was called Yeshua, which was Joshua. So there's a connection. The first names are exactly the same, and then there's an event that could have affected the earth. You go with the King Hezekiah story about the king of the Jews. I told you the similarities. And then you have Jesus himself talking about the sign of Jonah. Remember, I said that he said, just as an evil and adulterous generation ask for a sign, no sign shall be given to them but one. Just as Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days and 3 nights, so too will the Son of Man be in the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, shortly after that, you can check this out. He then said words to the effect, and I say unto you, greater than a Jonah is here. Now go back. There was a situation with Joshua that might have affected the earth, and greater than a Joshua is here. You got the King Hezekiah story I told you. It would have been greater than the story that took place in King Hezekiah's time. So if you put them all together, all 3 events would have been surpassed by what Jesus was going to do. That's if I'm correct. It would have been what he was going to do as it affected the earth, if I'm right, would have been bigger than the Jonah story, bigger than the Joshua story, bigger than the King Hezekiah story. So that's how I found there is a connection to all 3 as it goes back to Jesus. Now, I'm just going to go through, that's basically my whole theory. I'm just going to go through the Julian calendar. All right, and we're going to go in order again, and I said this in my first clip. Okay, the mistake made by Sogenes. I don't think he made a mistake. If he did make a mistake, I'm certainly sure that Augustus would have compensated for it. He would have fixed it. Like I said, Augustus fixed the calendar starting in 8 BC. And that's another one I have to go through it again. I stated that the scholars tend to believe that the intercalary days was, there was 12 intercalary days inserted when there should have been 9, or there was 11 intercalary days that should have been inserted, but there was 8. So any way you look at it, it's a 3-day difference. And I told you all about when Augustus had the obelisk set up, and he would have had to drop 3 days. So instead of adding an intercalary day, he would have dropped one, beginning in 8 BC. Now most scholars believe that it went on from 8 BC till 7 AD, and then the following year, 8 AD, they would have added the leap year day. Okay? They didn't compensate for the year 0, so I'm not going to. Now, if you look at it, 8 BC, they would have dropped an intercalary day. 4 BC, they would have dropped an intercalary day. In the year 0, if there was a year 0 in the Roman, switch it over to the Roman date, there would have been a day, a day would have been dropped on that day. So the day that would be added wouldn't be in 8 AD, it would be in 4 AD. So if you look at it, why would the scholars say that the day should have been, the calendar would have been set by 8 AD, that's when they would have added the intercalary day. Shouldn't it have been 4 AD? And if there was no year 0, then back it up. It does look like Augustus had to drop another day, and what could have caused it? I told you it could have been the Sojourneys could have made a mistake, Augustus adjusted it. It could have been the lag, and by that time I figured it out, it was 11 hours and 14 minutes. He could have adjusted it for that, or it could have been the event that I'm saying with, like I said, when it took place, like Dr. Hughes said, when Jesus was born, somewhere between 8 to 6 BC. If that event happened that I'm stating, Augustus would have adjusted it. So it seems to me that there was 4 days dropped when there should have been 3. Something is wrong. Then you come up and you go, the intercalary days should have been 4. Now you go back to the Pliny example. Okay, I listed that in the first segment, right? He came back to Rome in 59 AD, and as far as I know, he was in Rome quite a bit, or in Italy quite a bit. I don't know if he ever went back into the army after that, but there seems to be a strong suggestion he came back in 59 AD, and I listed his possible explanations. Right, whether the sun has changed its course in consequence of some derangement from the heavenly system, or whether the earth was displaced from its center. And then I also said, if you connect the next line to it, which I've heard remarked as taking place in other places or detected. So it kind of seems like other people noticed there was a shift, and it would have been, in my opinion, it would have been a major shift. Now the things that I'm bringing out now is, okay, there was no attempt to even try to fix it. It sounds like something major happened, right? Like according to Pliny, nearly 30 years, it happened nearly 30 years ago when he observed it. What happened then? Beforehand, it looks like it was working correctly. Then 30 years, or then gap of time passed, and then it didn't work correctly, and Pliny went backwards, said it's been 30 years that it hasn't been working correctly. How do I put it? How big was the error? Like if it was 11 minutes and 14 seconds, if Augustus adjusted the calendar in by a new March 25th, first day of spring, in 5 AD, like I said in the first segment, how much would the lag have affected? Like how much would the lag have caused the Earth to slow down or speed up, whatever it is, so we lose a day? You're talking about March 25th, if it was a new March 25th, as the first day of spring, if Augustus did adjust the calendar with a brand new first day of spring, you would have had like 11 minutes and 14 seconds for how many years? Till you get to the crucifixion years. So that's 25, maybe 30. It wouldn't have been a major thing. They would have, like I said, it would have been taking place very, very slowly. And then they said, this thing is losing time. Every time we check it, it's a little bit shorter and a little bit shorter. It's moving, right? Tiberius did nothing about, or I don't know if Tiberius was still the emperor of Rome when Jesus was crucified, but nobody after him did anything. There wasn't some kind of investigation. I heard one that said Domitian tried to, I guess he tried to fix the base of the calendar, or the obelisk. That was, I don't know how many years ago, but after, but that still might have been, not related to what happened. So you do have these events that take place. Right now I'm going to go through this again. Okay. If you get a 52, like the days lost because of the lag. If you start in 52 AD when Pope Gregory made his adjustments, and you go by 128 years, every day lost, you would have had a March 21st, first day of spring in 302 AD, 22nd in 174 AD, 23 in 46 AD, 24 in 82 BC. It doesn't match, and it gets worse. 129 years. March 21st, first day of spring, 1582 minus 10 days, 129 days, that would have been 1290 days. In 292, March 21st, first day of spring, 163, first day of spring, 163, March 22 and 163. You would have had a March 23 first day day of spring in 34 AD, and then in 95 BC you would have had a March 24th, first day of spring. Nothing fits. No matter how you go, it doesn't fit. Okay? Now here, if you go forward from 33 AD, let's pick that as the time of the crucifixion. You would have a March, if I'm right, it would have been a March 22nd, first day of spring. 128 years later, March 21st, 161, 289, March 20, 417, March 19. Go all the way down, and you would get an equinox taking place, and it says here 1569, which March 10. You would have had a March 10th, first day of spring, when Pope Gregory was in charge of the calendar, when he was the Pope. Doesn't fit. Now there's one here. Find it. Here it is. Now we're going to go from 33 AD, and we're going to use another calculation which a lot of scholars agree to or believe. We would lose 3 days every 400 years. So you have 33 AD. There would have been a brand new March 22nd, first day of spring. 133 years later, March 21st. 133 years after that, March 20th. This would have been around the time of the Council of Nicaea, because they met in 325 AD. It was a March 20th. Remember I said there was a overlap of March 20 and 21. It could have fit. 432, March 19th. 565, March 18th. 696, March 17th. 831, March 16th. 964, March 15th. The year 1097, March 14th. The year 1230, March 13th. The year 1363, March 12th. And in 1496, you would have had an equinox beginning on March 11th, which was exactly what Pope Gregory was dealing with. Okay, so this thing shows. Yeah, I don't think there's any other numbers here that I come up with that shows a bona fide March 11th, first day of spring, when Pope Gregory was in charge. You got, like, if it didn't take place, it's all out of whack. You would have had a March 12th, first day of spring in 1622. That's if you go with 129 years and you start when Sojournes. It just gets worse. Forward, March 25th, 5 AD. Go 128 years, you'd have a March 10th, March 10th, first day of spring in 1566. Now you got to remember, March 11th is gone now. It's March 10th and it's moving to the 9th. 129 years, you'd have a March 20th, you'd have a March 10th, first day of spring in 1578. Go 130 years, calculate it, March you would have had in the year 1590, you would have had a March 10th. It gets worse all along. If you go with 133 years, you would have a first day of spring taking place on March 10th. That means the March 11th has been totally passed by in 1626, or March 11th. So the one that does fit very well is the one I just mentioned, where there would have been a March 11th, first day of spring in 1496, and it would have been March 11th when Pope Gregory made his adjustments. Now, I don't know what else to say here. I have listed as many. Oh, there's one other thing too. I don't know if this is possible. Maybe an astrophysicist could do it. But if we were destined to have, let's say the calendar was set at March 25th, and in total you would have lost 4 days. 1 day to signify Christ's birth, 3 days when he was in the tomb. So you would have had a March 21st. Would the lag have continued? Like if it was supposed to have a March 21st first day of spring here, and we lost the days too early, would that have normalized the equinox for a long time? So when astrophysicists look back, well, they said, oh, this is a normal number for the equinox, a normal date. They just bypassed. And what I'm saying is, could it be possible that the normal date shouldn't have been there, but the abnormal date should have been there if he set the calendar for March 25th? I don't know if that'll work out, but any way you look at it, I think this should be investigated. I tried to present academic reasons for why my theory should be investigated. Biblical support, right? I think I did that. I mentioned Nostradamus, right? I don't think that'll appeal to anybody with a scientific nature, or if it's a Christian astrophysicist, they don't want to hear that. But let's go back to Dr. David Hughes. When he assessed what could have been the Star of Bethlehem, he looked at it from the point of view, well, astrology was big then. Maybe they were looking for an astrological sign, right? And like I said, if he was right, it was a September and Jupiter conjunction that was very rare. And if I'm not mistaken, the Magi started following it, and then they went to see Herod first, then they came they were watching the star, and then when it stopped, it was right over where the child lay. The Jupiter, if it was those two planets. So say what you will about astrology, but if that was the beginning of the age of Pisces, and it really was the beginning of the age of Pisces, and Pisces ages used to last roughly around 2,000 years. So you can say Jesus could have been the defining individual for the age of Pisces. Thank you. It started right at the beginning, right? Now, one would imagine some 2,000 years later that we're entering the age of Aquarius. Like, is it possible that what took place that was contradicted might be revealed right before the age of Aquarius starts? And I can build a case that Jesus could have been the water bearer too. That's the symbol for the age of Aquarius. I might as well say it now. It won't do any good anyway. But at least I'll say it. If you look at like many people believe astrologers believe that Jesus was the defining individual for the age of Pisces. You know, the first symbol of Christianity was a fish. There was other things too. There was many times, make fishermen of you, the whole bit. Like, he could have been the defining individual for the age of Pisces. So how do astrologers get that he could have been also the defining individual for the age of Aquarius? Well, there's a little story in the Bible when he went up to, one version said that he sent 2 disciples forward, said, go to a place, and when you see a man carrying a pitcher of water, follow him, and that's what we're going to have. I think it would have been the Passover meal or whatever it was. When you see a man bearing a pitcher of water. And another version, they actually named the apostles. I forget who they were. But when I first heard that, I said, yeah, okay, there's going to be a man bearing a pitcher of water. Like, what was the population in Jerusalem at the time? 30, 40,000? How are they going to find a guy bearing a pitcher of water? That's impossible. That's like finding a needle in a haystack. The exact opposite was true, because men did not, they weren't the water, brought water to the homes. That was women's work. So when you got a guy there, all they had to do was hang around the main water well. There's the guy, and I'm going to follow him. And astrologers say the symbol for Aquarius is the water bearer. So they're saying if Jesus was the Son of God, then guess who was the water bearer? So he said he could have been the individual for the age of Pisces, just happens to match, and he could be the defining individual for the age of Aquarius, and it's roughly 2,000 years. So I thought I'd throw that out too. Maybe that might entice, how do I put it, somebody to check into it. If you're an open-minded astrophysicist or archaeo astronomer, that's more, I got more support. Like, well, okay, he's given biblical support. He's given academic reasons as much as he could. He's got a quatrain from Nostradamus, and there's other ones, I don't want to quote them. And now you say, okay, astrologically speaking, could it fit? Yeah, it could fit. So what was asked for, there's another story there too. There's a story about when early Christians used to identify themselves. Let's say they're in a crowd and they didn't know one was a Christian and the other one. What they would do, you know how the early symbol of Christianity was a fish? Well, if they were standing in front of each other, one would draw the first part of the fish. Then if the other one was a Christian, he would add the tail. So that means you're a Christian and I'm a Christian. Right? As soon as I heard that, I goes, well, if you look at it, the first part of the fish could have been at the beginning when Jesus was actually here, and it was asked for you to believe in him. Right? You don't have the complete story. You said, look, believe, like he said, blessed is he who believes in me without the proof. But when the picture is complete, at the end of Pisces, it could fit. Now you got the whole picture. What was asked for you to believe in is now confirmed to be true. So you've got an event, like I said, an event at the beginning of Pisces, could be at the end of Pisces, just like you said. And here again, when Christians do not like certain words in the Bible. I already told you that thing about Saint Simeon, or keep calling him Saint, I don't know if he is or not, but Simeon, what he said about, for a sign that shall be contradicted. I went through that one professor there, he got angry, he said it didn't say that. Well, like I can prove it. He says they don't like that. They also don't like this statement, where Jesus said, I will be with you even on to the end of an age. Of course, age, when he says it like that, that implies astrology. Astrology can't be correct. It's of the devil. So suddenly that same passage became, and I will be with you even on to the end of the world. So like they come up and they say, this can't be true, so I'm going to slide in a word that fits what we consider to be the truth. Anyway, that's it. I have done everything I could. I hope I hope there's an astrophysicist or an Archaeo Astronomer out there that will just check out my theory. I've done everything I could. I provided as much academic evidence as I could, biblical support, astrological support. I even threw in a quatrain from Nostradamus in there, seems to support me. I can't prove this. I've said this over and over. This is a theory of mine, and it's been, I would like a definitive answer one way or another. And as I said before, if I'm right, good, I'm right. But if I'm wrong, I could live with that. I mean, I won't be the first person on this planet who's wrong about a theory. So just to end this, I want to know which airport I landed in. Did I make a terrific landing in the right airport, or did I make a terrific landing in the wrong airport? I hope somebody out there can help me and at least show me what airport I landed in. Thank you very much.